President Obama keeps promising to help small businesses, but many of these businesses say that the targeted tax credits and such don't make up for the cost of a more intrusive government. We just heard a business owner say exactly that. So how do we make the backbone of the American economy churn better? Let's ask our small business power players, Liz McDonald, Rod Kurtz, and Ari Zoldan. All of them deal with small business in their own ways. And Rod, you deal with them with the most number of them, the greatest number of them working in your business.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's interesting. There are a lot of different mood tests right now. I think on the whole, we just did a story about how small business owners are actually more optimistic than they've been in about 4 years, which is interesting, and you like to see that. At the same time, there are surveys coming out about a lot of them are still not hiring, and uncertainty about the economy is absolutely number one.
And more optimism based on where we were, Ari, is not going very high. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you don't have far to go up when you're starting at zero.
Correct. And I think the big issue right now is getting small companies through the process. I think the government there's so much, we were talking about it before, the paperwork and the strings involved to be able to access the money, it's just too exhausting. So having express kind of documentations or programs in place for small business owners to be able to access the money, that's key.
And EMAC, let's face it, it's the squeaky wheel gets the grease. The loudest voices inside the Beltway in terms of getting what they want are the big corporations. They have hundreds of lawyers and lobbyists and so forth. Small business guys don't. So all these carve-outs and everything, regulatory carve-outs, are for the big guys, not the small guys.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something. The big guys sit at the IRS at a thing called the Tax Executives Institute, and they weigh in on tax changes that benefit their own companies. The little guys don't have a seat at that table. I'll tell you, the little guys are the small caps. There's, big cap stocks with training wheels in the making. So, and they're the ones that are really powering the growth. And I got to tell you something. The way that this government has treated the little guys, I mean, look they lure you in with you make a great point about tax credits and money. But when you get in bed with the government, it's like sleeping with a hippo. It feels warm and comfortable at first, and then they roll over and smush you.
Rod, I
can't top that
certainly could not top that either.
I mean, but a metaphor that I was thinking of, and as someone who's covered entrepreneurs as a journalist and as an advocate for over a decade, the thing that always bothers me about politicians is they treat small businesses like they're kissing babies. They love, getting out there on both sides of the aisle saying all that they're doing for small businesses. And to your point, Liz, they don't have this seat at the table. A lot of them tell me we don't feel represented in Washington. There are a lot of trade groups, but at the end of the day, like you said, it goes to the squeaky wheels.
Now, the other thing that we're hearing always from the folks inside about it, with the administration, they say, look, we have all of these tax breaks that we've had for the small business. We're focusing our tax breaks on small business, but there are always these tax breaks that don't give any certainty about what's going to happen in the future. Once they're over, that's it. Plus, they're trying to direct them to do certain things, like use green energy or whatever.
It's hard, and it's the process. Again, it's about the process, getting access to the money. It's an uphill battle. It's not easy. That's why we're pushing these express programs. SBA came out with one, and they just yanked it, maybe because it was too easy to get.
Now, when you say express programs, tell us what you mean.
It's a 4- or 5-page application. You go in, you go out, you get an answer in 10 days. I mean, that's encouragement for a small business owner to be able to access that money. But when you're talking about 300-400 pages of it's impossible.
Well, no,
and it's not worth it. And David, let me tell you also, where the economy is headed or where the opportunity is for the small companies, because that's where innovation begins, and that's where it ends.
The bigger the corporation, the more stuck in its ways it gets. If it's young, if it's flexible, it does most of the innovation. That's why we love these companies.
Yeah, absolutely. And they are the engine of job growth. They are the beating heart of the U.S. economy. I'll tell you something. I've talked to a lot of small business guys, as you have. They do get scared at the Jupiter-sized debt coming out of Washington. And what they have said time and again is, the president could stand up and have a real game changer of a campaign moment if he said, I do support Bowles Simpson. That would be a 1986 Reagan tax reform moment or a Clinton welfare reform moment in the mid-90s for the president to do that, because deficit equals more taxes to pay for the interest costs on the debt. That's the name of the game.
Rod, I used to cover Latin America. We always used to joke about how long it would take to incorporate a small business in Latin. That's why you have such a big underground economy in Latin America, because to do it legally takes months, if not years, and thousands of pages of paper. We're getting like that here in the United States. It's getting as hard to start a business.
It's actually, I mean, it sounds like a plum assignment. I was actually just down in Jamaica for an entrepreneurship summit and seeing.
Oh, honestly, that was a plum. Come on, I admit it was a plum assignment.
No, but I mean, you see the red tape and the restrictions that people face in other countries, and yes, I think that is a scary thing if that were.
It's not that. Listen, Rod, with all due respect, I don't think it's that bad. I mean, to go ahead.
It's certainly not that bad.
Yeah, but to start a company today, it's $149. You go online and get your docs within 4 or 5 days. what I think
My wife
But aren't you
started one.
guys-
It took about $2,000 bucks, but anyway.
But aren't you
she paid a
scared
lawyer.
about
That
health
was the
reform?
issue. You know, you could go online. You could do it in 3-4 days. The big issue right now is how do the small business owners access the government incentives and the government money? And I think if the government could push and encourage these entrepreneurs and these young innovators, I think that's
EMAC, you want to get in?
You just keep the tax rates low, and that'll push them. I mean, the cheapest form of stimulus is confidence in stable regulatory policy. And I'll tell you something, health reform is scaring. We said it time and again, but, you know, that is kind of scaring.
It
small
is the
businesses.
Damocles sword just hovering over everybody. Thank you, gang. Good to see you all.
Good to see you.
Thank you, David.
Well, she was one of the